Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Playbook for Leaders and Entrepreneurs. Today, I have a very fascinating guest who is a serial entrepreneur with 15 plus years of experience in business, and he's also a prolific public speaker competing in various different speaking competitions. Not only that, he's also a certified spiritual hypnotist. I'm so excited to welcome Martin Pavion. Martin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. You know what? I'm just thinking. I'm gonna shut up and just let you keep talking me up if you'd like.
Martin,
But
welcome.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, please could you give us more insights into your business and personal life so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more?
Absolutely sure. I noticed you were talking me up there about, my years of entrepreneurship and everything like that. I don't know if I am an entrepreneur anymore. So before we go any further, just answer me this. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? I'm sure you know the answer to this one, or you've got an answer.
For me, an entrepreneur's basic definition would be someone who is running an own business and startup, leading a group of people to a particular vision, etc.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll take that then. Part of me thinks, yeah, I've definitely been an entrepreneur. But in terms of what I think stereotypically people perceive as an entrepreneur, the kind of person wanting to dominate the world, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, I'm no longer doing that. But absolutely, I've got my own business. I've changed my values a lot. But yeah, in terms of my entrepreneurship journey, I probably did the best thing I could ever do for myself at the age of 21. I went to move overseas and I spent 15 years living in Thailand. And Thailand was just a playground for me. It was one of those places that just didn't seem to fail. I didn't have any fears. And that was one of the biggest things. Every day I'd wake up and I'd think, oh, I'd like to set up a business doing this. And then I'd just go ahead and do it. And there was nobody, it wasn't my parents saying, oh, you've got to be careful about that. There wasn't anybody saying, oh, it's the wrong country to do it in. And I just had this run of whimsical businesses, which I just set up one after the other over the space of, 10 years or so. And maybe with the odd exception, they all were successful to a point. I just got this absolute sense of confidence that nothing could hold me back. I know people talk about entrepreneurs needing to overcome any limiting beliefs, but moving to a whole different country, I didn't have any limiting beliefs there. And it was beautiful. So I got a lot of experience doing lots of things. I set up a telecom company. So this was when it cost, maybe 80 pence a minute to call from Thailand to the UK. And I partnered with an American telecom company and became their agent, marketed it all myself, got myself onto the Wall Street Journal. And it was just at the time when the internet was kind of coming to fruition. You could build a site and it was so easy to make a site better than the established businesses because they didn't know what was going on yet. So I was doing that for a while. I got from that business into selling artwork. I found some artists in Thailand selling upcycled art. We're talking about 8-meter tall transformer robots made out of scrap metal, out of bike, aliens, predators. The transformers became very famous. We actually had those licensed, and I was selling them. I contacted this artist in Thailand and said, "This is wasted in Thailand. Let me market these for you." And I was selling to museums. I was selling really to the hospitality industry all around the world. And it was the most surreal business. If you ever spoke to my art teacher back at school, there was no way I could ever get into the art industry if I'd have taken his advice or any of my friends' advice. But I absolutely loved that. I set up a concierge business and yeah, it was a beautiful lifestyle. Then I moved back to England with my wife, with my kids, and I chose to become a house husband to support my wife. She was very, very ambitious with her work and with her career. And that's kind of when everything went bad. The relationship got a bit messed up. Being a house husband, it's a very honorable, romantic notion, but it messes up the family dynamics. And a few years on, we ended up getting divorced, which was a shock to my system. And then I found myself alone in England trying to rekindle my businesses again. And then COVID hit. And that was, that was a difficult time to kind of move forward a little bit. So COVID pretty much destroyed my businesses. Everything which I thought I knew about business didn't survive COVID. And that was kind of the moment of my life when everything had just gone to ruins. And without wanting to sound too pompous about this, we talk about a spiritual awakening, and maybe I'll come back to that. It does sound very pompous, but it's a euphemism for just when your life goes to ruins. And I started to question everything. I'm like, all the formulas which I'd been given didn't work anymore. I started questioning it, and it alienated me from my friends, from my family. It led me to a lot of self-doubt. It took me many years to work through that. And this is really where I am now. I'm loving the business I'm involved with now, spiritual hypnosis. And I'm loving it because it's for me. This is my business for me. I'm a lot more aware of who I am as a person. And because of that, I'm loving it, every aspect of it. It's a passion business rather than a business which was going to make me a millionaire.
Nice. Wow. And tell me more about what formulas do you mean that didn't work?
Well, we're talking about the formulas we get from society, really. Talking about what does success mean if you ask a school teacher and if you ask a parent. And I'm 45. I always grew up believing school system, work hard at school,
Get a job.
go to college, go to university, get a good job, 40 hours a week for 40 years, and the company will take care of you. Likewise, meet a girl, settle down, children, house, car, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, suddenly I realized that none of it had actually worked. I was on my own. A relationship had disintegrated in a very dramatic way. My business had disintegrated in a very dramatic way. And I started to think, well, I'm done with taking advice. Who's making all this advice up? And even with entrepreneurship, to an extent, see entrepreneurship as being true to yourself and not following a formula. And I've got a bit of an issue with all of the trainings out there teaching people how to become an entrepreneur in that respect. Because we're still following a system. It's just somebody else's system. We're still being marketed to in the same way that religion markets to us, in the same way that the education system markets to us. And a lot of the goals when it comes to what it takes to be a great entrepreneur, kind of things which make me cringe, these launch your six-figure business today. All those adverts, right? It's just, I don't know, it's become a bit cringeworthy for me. For me, it's like, launch a business so you can live the life you want to live. I think that's what my new definition of success really is, rather than what these entrepreneurial courses tell me it should be.
Yeah, I think nowadays they've glorified the entrepreneurship business journey, I feel. Sure. And I'm curious to ask you, like, when you were in Thailand, you said you were fearless and no limiting beliefs. So as you went on in your life, were you still fearless, or that changed and you started doubting yourself?
Oh, good question. I'd say COVID really kicked it out of me. Up until then, maybe it became self-perpetuating. I had no fear. I'd start something, it would work. It would give me confidence to start the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. I also realized I've got a very short concentration span. So I love setting businesses up. And when I've set them up, I'll spend a short amount of time thinking, oh my God, I'm so happy with this. What's next? And then I get bored and move on to the next thing. So there's this constant churn, and that youthful energy between my 20s and 30s was really, really good. Once I hit 40, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to slow things down a little bit more now. This is not where I want to be. I don't want to be doing these, 12-hour days. I actually want a bit of a life for myself. I want a nap, But the things the entrepreneur books don't teach you are quite important for a good day.
Looking back, what is one mistake you made early in your journey that turned out to be a valuable lesson?
Okay. I'd say COVID. In fact, I'll give you two, because COVID is a distant memory in some respects.
Yeah, 5 years ago, can't believe it. 5, 6 years ago now.
But when I say it took me by surprise, what I always felt was being encouraged in entrepreneurship circles was this idea that when the going gets tough, work even harder. And I doubled down during COVID. My main business was this statue business. And I was selling to, mainly museums. And when did COVID begin? It was about April time, wasn't it? And I was absolutely convinced that if I just knuckled down, worked really hard, got all my marketing underway, what would eventually happen would be come September, not only would the industry be back, but I would be on top of the industry. I would have eliminated my competitors. I'll have all given up. So I absolutely burnt out. And come September, I had a black book of 200 clients all willing to make an order with me. And we're talking big orders. And by September, they'd all vanished. Nobody wanted to speculate on buying statues for marketing for their business at that point. They were like, we're not even back on our feet yet. We need to, it's cost us a fortune. And it was, one of those things that it's not a bad thing to give up. And I think one of the reasons was this mindset of, that kind of Rocky mentality, fight and fight and fight and put all your energy into it. Last man standing is the winner. And the quality of my life was horrible. I was waking up every day petrified that I couldn't pay my bills. For at least a year of COVID, I was like that. No, that's not what I thought a successful life was going to be about. And I think I was just chasing the money and chasing the glory of overcoming a challenge which I had no real control over. So that's probably, that is a very important lesson. But more recently, actually, I really got stuck in a rut as early ago as last year. I'd like to present myself as this guy who's got all the answers, but this was only September to November, just a few months ago. So I told myself, I'm responsible for my business. I'm going to live how I want to live, and I'm not going to work over the summer. I'm going to spend the time with my kids, and I had a beautiful summer. All the traditional things you do with kids, hiking, cycling, all this.
Love it.
I didn't do any marketing. So come September, the kids go back to school, and I've got any clients. And if I'd have continued my marketing, it's quite a consistent business. But what I started to do was I started to think, well, if things are going to take a while to pick up again, I should look at my plan B. And I set up another business. And as this business was being started, I thought, well, I need a marketing angle for this business. So I set up another business to get me, but basically the second business was helping companies reduce their utility bills. I'm not passionate about that at all. It's a very corporate business. I'm working as an agent for somebody else. And when I realized it was hard to get my foot in the door, I set up another business, which was like a directory of local businesses. Now, I could contact them all and say, hey, would you like to be listed for free on my business directory? And by the way, can I help you with your utility bills? And I got myself into such a rut, September to November, because I had two businesses which needed a lot of attention setting up, which I didn't really care about. It wasn't my passion. I wasn't interested. Had 3 businesses in total. I was completely overwhelmed. Didn't get myself out of bed. And what it was no passion. Those 2 new businesses weren't of interest to me at all. And it really got me to appreciate that a lot of working with a business has to be about enjoying it. And I think that's one of the beauties of entrepreneurship if it's done right. You say, this is my business. I'll take full responsibility for it. If I'm not enjoying it, then it's my responsibility to find a way to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's not for me. You can gamify things. Or in my case, I've just walked away from those other 2 businesses. I'm selling them both. And I am focusing on the one thing which does get me out of bed in the morning. So that's something which came from, very recent experience. I'd like to think that at 45, having gone through so many businesses, I've learned it all. And every month, there's always something new to learn, something humbling.
And now what is the business that you're main focusing on? Is the spiritual hypnosis one?
Absolutely,
correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. We definitely, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say it's a niche business. I realize again, getting to know a lot about myself. I want to do things my way. And I didn't want to be competing with every traditional hypnotherapist. So what I'm doing is not the same as what traditional hypnotherapists do. It's a niche market, and it's a whole different set of marketing skills to do that. And that's what I'm now focusing on.
Yeah, 100%. We'll deep dive into that as well, but I want to more know about your entrepreneurial journey. So, next question I have for you, Martin. How do you handle failure, and what advice would you give others about learning from setbacks?
Okay, I'm sure there's some really wise words, some quotes I could give from other people, but I think really for me, it, I just forgive myself. I don't have expectations that I'm going to be perfect. The odds are stacked against me
Mm.
being perfect. Have you read Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki?
Like long time ago, I remember
Yeah.
it.
But the whole point being, there's four positions of being in a business. You can be an employee, you're part of somebody else's system. You can be self-employed and you are the business. And that's where I am at the
Mm.
moment. That is where I am the, the hypnotist, the customer service, the web designer, the accountant, the legal consultant, the graphic designer, the marketer, all of that in one. And I'm never going to be great at all of them. Eventually, the business will grow that I can outsource a lot more. But where I'm at right now, it's impossible to be great at them all. I put a newsletter out yesterday, and I've realized that striving for perfection is so pointless. It's a massive
Mm.
way of procrastinating. It means I'm never satisfied with myself. And
Mhm.
I'm happy that I can be more authentic being unprofessional to an extent. I'll make mistakes. I'll apologize for
Mm.
my mistakes, but I'm me. I'm running it myself. I don't wear a suit and tie for work.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty again. This is my business. I'll work how I want to work. And it seems to be working. I'm going for the edge that rather than try to be perfect, I just try to be authentic.
I love
It's
that.
easier.
So, what role does personal growth play in your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay. I'm just trying to think about that one. Personal growth in my, I would say they're the same thing. I think a lot of my personal growth recently, I mean,
Mm.
in the past, personal growth was following somebody else's formula, doing all the Tony Robbins courses, studying neurolinguistic programming, and reading all the books of how to be somebody I'm not. And I think what's
Mm.
changed in the last few years has been very much a case of, well, thank you for that learning, but it's not me. Now I'm going to learn about who I am, not who society thinks I need to be. And that's then shaped the businesses which I've chosen to do. I'm not choosing the businesses which I'm going to dominate the world or I'm going to make my millions with. I'm choosing my business now that I can wake up in the morning, passionate about what I do, and close my eyes at
Mhm.
night, satisfied that I've had a really, really great day helping people.
Yeah, actually, give me an example. If you follow someone like an entrepreneur or like an influencer like Tony Robbins, and if he says something, then how could we know, like, okay, this is not for us or this is for us?
I would say it's what gets you out of bed. I mean, one of the things I sometimes call this toxic entrepreneurship,
Okay.
following other people's rules. And I know we talked very briefly about the 75 hard challenge.
Mhm.
Okay. There's a lot of willpower involved with pushing yourself like that. And I've done that. I've done
And
all
do you
the,
mind explaining what 75 hard is for our listeners?
uh, you're probably better at it than I am. It's a very extreme personal daily challenge. For 75 days, it's 2 lots of 45-minute exercise, one of those which must be outdoors. It's a gallon of water, drinking a gallon of water a day. I think 10 pages of a non-fiction book a day. Is there anything else which I'm forgetting?
No
It's quite
alcohol
stringent.
as well,
Oh,
like
yeah, a strict diet as well,
strict
isn't it?
diet. Yeah.
Yeah, and no forgiveness. You screw up once and you start from day one again.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And I've got friends who are doing it. I know a lot of people are talking about it. And it's exactly the kind of thing I would have done a couple of decades ago. And I did. I did those very extreme things. And it's all about willpower. This comes up a lot with my hypnosis business as well.
Hmm.
Willpower is hard. You're fighting your own instincts. You're fighting your own sense of enjoyment.
Hmm.
So I see things a lot more now of do what I want to do. If there's no carrot in front of me, if there's no incentive, make an incentive. That's where I like to be. A lot of the stuff there's some really great things with Tony Robbins and personal development. There's really great things with everything. But I think the secret is to pick and choose and say, some of this isn't right for me. Like with the 75-day challenge, okay? Who made these rules up? Is there a science behind them? Is it going to work for everybody equally? So 45 minutes twice a day of exercise for somebody who hasn't got off the sofa for the last 6 months. It's going to be overwhelming. It's setting them up for failure. It's setting them up for frustration and hardship. So to be able to say, well, I see some value here, but for me personally, I'm going to tweak this. I'm going to make it right for me. And that can expand to everything. It can expand to, who says we should do a 9-to-5 workday? I've now decided that as much as I would like to be on a 9-to-5 workday, because that's when clients expect it, I've gone on to the polyphasic sleeping. I've gone on to having a siesta in the afternoons now. I'm working late at night. I love working 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock at night and not needing to wake up so early in the morning or having that nap. Who makes these rules up? Where did this 9-to-5 come from? Does it really apply, and does it need to apply to everybody?
Interesting.
Yeah. There's no one answer for everybody. And I think that's the most important thing. Just find what works for you and be happy with that. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world's doing or thinking or telling you to do.
Love that. And we all are different, so we have to choose what aligns with us.
Yeah.
For sure. Interesting question for you. So is there an entrepreneur that you admire, and why do they inspire you? It shouldn't be Tony Robbins.
No. I was thinking about this before, actually. The entrepreneurs I admire aren't the ones who've become successful by becoming rich and famous. So I can give you the names of people, but you won't know them. The people I've got the most respect for are the people who have come from real adversity. I've got friends who have come from backgrounds of domestic violence, have been left penniless, homeless, and have worked really, really hard to develop a business that they're really happy with and works for them. Okay. And it doesn't need to be anything major. They don't need to be reinventing the wheel, but they've managed to build up a lifestyle that they've wanted out of adversity when they haven't had money on their side. They haven't had the privilege of a great education, for example. It's all come from necessity, and they've done what's required.
Oh, definitely. Great answer, Martin.
Sure.
I want to deep dive more on your spiritual hypnosis side. So, firstly, could you explain me what is the difference between spiritual hypnosis and conventional hypnosis? And also, what does hypnosis mean?
Yeah. I was just going to backtrack all the way to the very beginning, because a lot of people don't know what hypnosis is. Including hypnotists.
Yeah, because when I hear the word hypnosis, I think about the clock where you're like hypnotizing someone.
Yeah.
I want to know in detail what that is.
It's incredibly frustrating for me as well, because often when people talk about hypnotherapy, they're like, well, I don't know much about that, but I've seen people barking like dogs on stage shows. Is this what it's all about? And it's very, as I said, you can ask a hypnotist what hypnosis is, and nobody will really give you a straight answer, right? Conventional hypnotherapy, I liken it to reassurance therapy. Okay. How about this? Let's say I know you're not, but let's say you're scared of public speaking.
Okay.
And we go to a bar and I buy you a drink. And we sit down, you have that drink. Chances are you're going to relax a little bit. Okay. And I say, you know what? You're actually a lot more confident than you thought you might be. And I might buy you a few more drinks. And you're relaxing and we're having a good time. We're relaxed. And maybe you're around friends as well. And I say, well, you know what? Let's go up and do some karaoke together. There might be a few drinks where you'd be a little bit more amenable to that. That's what traditional hypnosis is. It's a case of getting a client into this kind of open, relaxed state and then empowering them with suggestions. Okay, and it can work. There's some value to it. Have you heard of neuro-linguistic programming?
No, tell me more.
Okay, this really connects entrepreneurship with hypnosis, actually. It's pretty much the same thing. And it's really a lot of the foundations of what Tony Robbins has built from. Okay, it's hypnosis without the eyes closed. It's the conversational stuff. And it's used a lot in business. A lot of business courses about how to build rapport, how to do sales, how to do marketing. A lot of that is around hypnotic principle.
And when you mentioned suggestions, do you mean like auto suggestions where you're talking positive affirmations to yourself? Is
Things
it
like that, yes. As I
right?
said, there's some value to it, but it's not really going very deep. And there are probably tens of thousands of hypnotherapists in the country. And you go to them and they'll do
Mhm,
smoking cessation. And a lot of the type of things will be close your eyes, you're nice and relaxed. Every time you see a cigarette, you will
mhm,
will feel an aversion to it. Or every day and in every way you're getting more comfortable. I mean, this is very base level stuff.
mhm,
It can go deeper than that. But what I really don't like about a lot of conventional hypnotherapy is everybody
mhm,
is treated the same. Okay. The kind of secret to the industry is you go to a hypnotherapist and say, I want to lose weight. And generally it's done through a script. Whether the hypnotherapist tells you that or not, or they've memorized the script and they treat everybody exactly the same. Now, I could give you a very woo-woo explanation of what spiritual hypnosis is. Okay. I could talk about past lives. I could talk about parallel lives, spirit guides, really crazy things, aliens, whatever it might be. But this is an
mhm.
entrepreneurial kind of podcast, and I want people to stay tuned. I
Yes.
think really it's about getting to know yourself, okay, on a level that is far beyond the subconscious or
Mhm,
the conscious. If we have a problem, okay,
mhm,
if it's a conscious problem, if we know about it, then we should be able to just deal with it. I'm a workaholic. I know
mhm.
that's a problem and I should be able to stop. And the fact that people can't stop means that it's buried within them. It's on the subconscious level. And that's what traditional hypnosis tends to work with. I'll give you an analogy, a bit like a computer system. Okay. So if you think about the computer desktop, that's kind of our conscious mind. Okay. This is all the problems we see and we know about. And we might be aware of them, but we don't do anything about them, or we choose not to. Then we have the operating system, Windows 11, OS 10, whatever it might be. That's all the subconscious stuff. And that's what a traditional hypnotherapist works with. A spiritual hypnotherapist goes beyond that. They go to the internet, okay, where there is vastly more knowledge available to the client. Some people call it their higher self. Maybe some people they could call it God, they could call it just their intuition. But it's the
Mhm.
part of Sid that knows all about Sid, that knows all about Sid's problems that his subconscious doesn't know about. And this is where I work with spiritual hypnosis. I don't have a prescription. I know that I don't know your problems. I know that you probably don't know your problems because they're buried deep within. You might have an idea of what you want to change, but we go in and we explore that on a very personal, interactive, one-on-one level. And it's very, very powerful.
Amazing. You explained it perfectly, Martin. I'm curious to know what sparked your interest in hypnosis and what led you to explore this field.
I got into traditional hypnotherapy and self-hypnosis when I was 19. I was
Okay.
at university. I'd just done my first year and I was really shy. The friends which I had at university, they were like
Mhm,
the nerds and the geeks, the people who didn't go to parties, didn't get invited to parties. And I felt quite ashamed of myself. And at the end of my first year, I thought, I need to do something about this. And
mhm,
I met somebody. I met somebody who I thought was quite stupid as a first impression. He was so positive, so upbeat, and he was an elderly man. He was a headmaster from New Zealand, but
mhm,
every time he was asked to do something, he said, "Oh, good oh." And as an English person, you're like, "What is wrong with this guy?" But I got chatting to him, and he was the most intelligent person I'd ever met, and he just had exactly the right mindset. He was
mhm,
open to everything. He wasn't bragging about things. He wasn't showing his intelligence. He was just very humble and he was just loving life. And I
mhm,
said, "What's the secret?" And he told me self-hypnosis. So I went home and I ordered a self-hypnosis course about improving my confidence. And I listened to it every night and absolutely worked. I went from extremely shy to the extreme opposite. Very, very confident. And I saw some value in that. Then I had a girlfriend. She,
mhm,
I don't know how how much I should be sharing with this, but we did a lot of stage hypnosis and erotic hypnosis. She was just very open to practicing things. And then I went through my entrepreneurial stage, was learning about neurolinguistic programming, but not under the guise of that. I was just taking business management courses, sales courses, things like that. Forgot about it for quite a few years. In Thailand, I got the opportunity to go to Singapore and do some study. And I thought, you know what? I was doing really well with my businesses. I just wanted to change. And I went over to study a bit more. Forgot about it, stuck to my entrepreneurial journey, thinking about making as much money as I could. And I got back to it when I got divorced. And I asked myself, what would I have done if I'd have never met my wife? If I'd have never even moved to Thailand? What was I most interested in? So I retrained then. And I think also my divorce was one of those really weird times of my life when there was a part of it I felt responsible. I felt that I hadn't been there to support my ex at the time. So I went through a few years of wanting to help everybody else. It's partly a coping mechanism. It's very easy to want to help others when your own life is a mess. It sounds, it's a nice way to wake up in the morning. Forget about my problems. I'm seeing everyone else have problems. So I retrained again. And then after COVID, after a lot of really dark times, this was when I had this awakening moment where my whole perspective changed pretty much overnight. And started to see that there was a link between hypnosis and spirituality. I started playing around with it, with friends, with colleagues. I suddenly realized I was good at this. I was getting the most incredible results with people very, very easily. And again, it's this like self-perpetuating loop of confidence that the more I do this, the better the results I get. And I'm just full of confidence and enthusiasm with it now.
It's crazy, Martin, because our first guest, Neil Ball, at 14, he decided that he wants to become a millionaire by 30. And he started doing self-hypnosis. And he used to hopefully I'm saying this name right, I think Joe Dispenza, I believe.
Joe Dispenza, he's very interesting guy.
Yes, so what Neil did, he used to listen to his audio tapes every night before sleeping. And somehow magically he became a successful entrepreneur and became a millionaire by 30. So I'm like fascinated by this. So tell me, Martin, what's the difference between this and doing like the law of attraction, the woo-woo?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So what's the difference? Tell me, because I'm curious to know.
Oh, this is interesting because a lot of my friends are also very spiritual. They're hypnotherapists, therapists, Reiki masters, all this kind of stuff. And I find it very difficult to talk about the law of attraction because I'm quite against it. Okay. There's something to it, which I just say, well, surely it's just goal setting an intention. Okay. If you're really clear on your thoughts and you've sat down, you've articulated them in your mind, and you've gone through whatever exercises are in the book and in The Secret, you've already got enough intention and enough motivation to carry you in that direction. What I don't like, and what I don't like with some clients who come to me for things like hypnosis, is this idea that just by, let's get real, it's daydreaming, right? Just by daydreaming, it's all going to happen. I think there's a combination of knowing what you want and taking action to actually get there. We don't get the full story. The previous podcast guest you had on, was it Neil you were speaking about?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't listened to that podcast, sorry. But I'm sure there's a hell of a lot of work which went there. Have you seen The Secret movie?
Yes, I've read the book as well.
Okay. There's a part in the movie which drives me insane. I hate it so much. And it's this kid praying for a bicycle.
Okay.
Do you remember this? He's praying for a bicycle. He's literally on his knees praying for a bicycle. And then it arrives on his doorstep. I mean, I'm just like, is this what we're teaching the world? I mean, business is Bill Gates, is Richard Branson, is Elon Musk sitting in their office right now praying that SpaceX doesn't explode. It's not going to happen like that. I feel
agree.
sorry for... I think my mum phrased it quite well, actually. It's like, if that's how you expect things to develop in life, that's just entitlement. A sense of entitlement. I deserve it because I pray. I deserve it because I've created a picture in my mind. There's a long-term day-to-day plan which needs to be conducted to get to where you need to be. whether that's getting out of bed at a certain time, whether it's making enough calls to get your sales in, whether it's managing to do your accounts, get your marketing out there, go out and do talks and things like that. And they've got to come together. So I don't tend to work with someone who says, I want to sit there, close my eyes and magically have an amazing relationship or have money be attracted to me. What tends to happen is, sorry,
No, I'm just saying, I agree for sure.
Yeah. So what tends to happen is I'm very particular about the clients I take on. Partly that's because I only want to take on clients I know I'm going to get a great result with. It makes me feel good. And it's very frustrating if the client doesn't do the homework. What will generally happen after a session, and they will go away with absolutely a clear understanding of what needs to be done consciously. There will be subconscious changes which will have happened to complement it, but they've still got to go and do it.
Interesting. Definitely in terms of law of attraction, we cannot sit and just visualize stuff into existence. So you mentioned you build the confidence by at night, you will listen to the tape. But after that, what action did you take? Did that help you to take action, or because it was in your subconscious mind, like, hey, I need to become a great public speaker, I want to build the confidence? Tell me, how did that help you to take action?
Well, there's two aspects of hypnosis. Okay. The aspect is expectation, right? At 19 years old, when I was very shy, having had a personal recommendation about a particular hypnosis audio, which I should listen to, I had the expectation that it was going to work. The other thing was the commitment. I literally did listen to it every day for maybe 60 days. And that's the hypnosis aspect of it. Okay. And that applies to anything. You don't need to go to bed with your eyes closed listening to something. If you're determined to make a sale and you know that it's, knowing that you can get that sale and, having the commitment to go ahead and take the action, you'll get there in the end. So when it comes to, why did that type of thing work? One of the NLP concepts, and it's very much a double-edged sword, has worked for me. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Again, this is the hypnosis which you will be taught in business school. How to make more sales, how to do presentations. Okay, one of them is, even if you're shy, act as if you're not shy, act as if you're confident.
Fake it till you make it kind of mentality.
Well, very much, yeah. And that has worked for me when it came to things like confidence. But in other parts of my life, it's absolutely screwed me over. When I got divorced, I thought, you know what? I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm going to tell everyone I'm doing great. I'm going to tell everybody that it was my wife holding me back. And suddenly I've got all this freedom and I couldn't be happier. It develops this level of, well, maybe we call it toxic masculinity, but this whole facade. And this is very much something which I have a bugbear about with entrepreneurship circles as well. This whole idea of pretending to be bigger than we really are and not asking for help.
That's huge.
And just, it's so much work pretending to be more successful, more happy, more confident than you really are. And I just realized that, being authentic and owning any of this, what tends to happen is people are like, me too. Thank you for getting it out there.
Can you walk us through how you help your clients shed limiting beliefs and unlock their potential?
Okay, limiting beliefs. Right. Okay, yeah. So I'll talk you through how a session might be. As I said, every session is completely different. Unlike hypnotherapy, I don't go in saying, okay, I've got a script here every day and in every way, you're shedding your limiting beliefs. So we do. I don't say it's not always the case, but I basically take a client to a place where we connect with this higher self, their intuition. And it's a really, really fascinating place to be. It's where the client's conscious mind is aware of what's going on, but they're kind of sitting on the sidelines. In fact, it's a three-way conversation, okay? And it's completely interactive. There's Martin, the hypnotist. There's Sid, the client, who's maybe lying on the sofa, in a chair with your eyes closed, dreaming about being on a beautiful beach or something like that. And then there's part of Sid. There's his higher self, the part that knows all about who Sid really is. If you're spiritual, if you believe in it, it might know about Sid's past lives. It might know about childhood traumas which have been repressed. And we have this beautiful interaction. Martin, the higher self, and Sid. Most of the time, Sid's sitting there feeling good. And I will say, Sid's come to me today because he's got some limiting beliefs. How can we work on that? And sometimes it's a conversation which will come out of Sid's mouth. Sid might not be aware of this. Sid could be dreaming on his island, and the most beautiful things come up. And it's very much working with that higher self and say, is there anything in Sid's current life from his childhood that he needs to resolve and heal? Yes or no? Yes, let's go back and do that. We're going there now. Or is there a part of Sid that's in conflict with other parts? Is there a part which is very ambitious, or there's a part which wants to get approval from Sid's family or his peers, in conflict with another part of Sid that doesn't really want that? Let's bring them together. Let's have a conversation and let's resolve it all. So there's a level of diplomacy. There's a level of aggression. It's very much a guide. I mean, my business is called Guided Healing. I let you find your answer, and I will take you to some places, and different things can happen. What could happen is you could literally be at a business meeting and meet your business idols there and have what feels like an absolutely authentic conversation with these business gurus who can tell you about how to run your business, how give you advice on how to overcome your business challenges. It could be maybe a past relative who comes to visit and tells you all you need to know about boosting your confidence, giving you some reassurance. It could be a memory from your childhood which makes you think, oh, no wonder I doubt myself. It was something that happened when I was 2 or 3 years old, and that was a load of nonsense. I can resolve that now. It's completely open-ended, and the most crazy things happen. I love it because having no expectations, having not any in-depth knowledge. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't do a long pre-talk with clients. Some clients don't tell me what their issues are. Some clients will just say, oh, I'm just at a crossroads. It's an issue they might be ashamed of, and I can do a whole session where I don't need to know. But the insights they get from it, or the kind of things they do share, it's like a Harry Potter movie. It's absolutely fantastic. I've got no idea what's coming. I've got no idea how it's going to heal, but I don't emerge the client until I've had absolute confirmation that the problem has sorted itself out.
So intrigued, Martin. That's incredible, honestly. Are there any simple exercises or techniques could you share with our listeners to help them reduce stress in their daily lives? Maybe a small technique or something?
Oh, yeah. So I'd say the most cliched thing is meditation. So I won't say meditation. What I will say, though, instead of that is time out. Okay, that could be meditation. It's a case of, I find as an entrepreneur, especially having to juggle so many different things at once, we can feel very guilty of actually stopping because, again, society tells us it's good to be busy. We're getting ahead. We don't want to be lazy. Lazy is stigmatized. So I think it's a really, really valuable thing to have some guilt-free time during the day to not do anything. And you could be smug about it. You say, oh no, I'm meditating or whatever. It might just be a case of getting off the computer, sitting in the garden, going for a walk, just to allow yourself to know that it's okay to stop. Because I think people don't do that enough. And maybe moving on from that as well is the dopamine addiction, which we suffer from.
Social media these days, honestly.
Yeah. But I mean, we get dopamine hits from so many things. For me, it's definitely my mobile phone. One of the things I only discovered this week was you can bulk archive all of your WhatsApp messages so that they don't you don't get notifications. You can unarchive any which you don't mind being disturbed with, but all of my friends, for example, they're all archived now. So I'm only checking my messages at the end of my workday. And having done that, I realized I also don't need my emails to be checked all the time. So I'm allocating time. I'll check my business emails at lunchtime. I don't check them in the morning because they just derail me. So I think it's a really good idea. I think definitely get off mobile phones. If possible, get off a computer. Or recognize where the addictions come in. It doesn't need to be phone. For me, it was procrastination eating, just going down to the kitchen for no particular reason because I work from home, just to stop me working. And it's a case of just getting comfortable with that, or even just acknowledging that we're human. We've got our flaws. We do distract ourselves. We do get lazy, and forgive it, but also think beyond just being ourselves. Imagine looking down at Sid and say, oh, Sid is procrastinating now. It's nothing he should get frustrated with, but how about just put something in place that he doesn't need to do that? How about if he's going to procrastinate, do it in a healthy way? Read a book, don't just check Facebook or social media. And yeah, I think there's a lot to be going for being kind to yourself. And that often goes against the willpower, which a lot of entrepreneurs feel they need to be getting through and pushing themselves very hard during a day.
Yeah, I think that's huge because, like you said, if all the entrepreneurs might be taking a break, that I feel guilty, I'm not progressing.
Absolutely.
I think that's definitely huge.
Yeah, and I could get away with that between the age of 20 and 30. And it's not something which you can keep up forever. I think, again, in terms of reducing stress, look for ways you can find the carrots, find the incentives to do things. Reward yourself for things which you might otherwise struggle to do. Don't work at the sticks. Don't think about, oh, I've got to do this because I've set a goal for this, because it just adds so much pressure. For example, for me, I'd like to get some more clients this month. The stick would be force myself to do it and get towards the last week of the month and push myself crazy hard, panic, start making cold calls, start sending emails out, setting up campaigns, and really stressing myself with that. Instead, it's like, the next time I get the next 3 clients, I'm treating myself to a weekend away. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what motivates me.
Good reward as well once after your efforts.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs see it as, I'm going to work hard for the next 10 years and then it's all going to be good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, as I learned, you can do that and you can do everything right in a business. You could be the best entrepreneur in the world, but if the business environment changes quickly, like COVID, like, in fact, hypnotherapy, traditional hypnotherapists were completely lost when people couldn't work in person anymore. People had to adapt. And if you're just in the wrong place or something happens which is beyond your control, you can be working like crazy for decades and get no reward at the end of it. Why not earn some of those rewards now? It's our right as an entrepreneur to be building a life we want to be living and not doing what other people are telling us entrepreneurship is about. Work 12-hour days, 15-hour days. Keep hustling all the time. Give ourselves a break from it and build that into our routine.
And Martin, could you share maybe a particular memorable or transformative experience you had with the client, if you want?
Oh yeah. This came about a few months ago, and this was my trickiest client. What I mean by this was he came to me especially because it was closed content. Okay, and what I mean by that is I said, you don't need to tell me anything. Okay, but he was a banker. He was clearly very wealthy. And all he told me is, my life is at a crossroads. And he didn't come across as a particularly spiritual person at all. Wasn't religious, didn't want to talk about any of that. And usually what happens is I've got enough tools in my toolbox that I can take somebody into a nicely relaxed state, regardless of how they process information and things like that. And this guy was throwing up obstacles every time. And I was saying, imagine opening a door. What's that? It's all black. I can't see anything. It's okay. Get a torch. Okay, well, the battery's gone out. And everything. And I was working so hard. Everything which was, imagine yourself floating up. No, I can't float up. Okay. I love these kind of challenges. I get a lot of people who've come to me because traditional hypnosis or hypnotherapy hasn't worked for them. And I'm like, I want the challenge. And things started to come up, which, again, he didn't really explain. But in the first few sessions, words came up like, I've never been loved. I want to kill everyone. And there's no purpose to life. And it was really angry, like really extreme stuff. And I'm thinking like, is there a safeguarding issue here? I need to follow up with this guy and find out what's going on. But we got some really interesting memories from his childhood. And one of them was his mother was on the telephone. He'd come back from school, so I guess he was about a teenager or maybe a bit younger.
Mm-hmm.
And his mum was speaking to debt collectors on the phone. And he had no conscious memory of this. This came out during the session. And I said, well, what insights did you get from this at the age of, whatever age you were? And he's like, not having money means I'm going to get killed. Because he felt his mother was being threatened. He came from a developing country where there was a lot of violence when it came to owing money. And I worked through it with this client for a few sessions, and we hit this breakthrough. We had this conversation with the higher self, and the guy's voice completely changed, and it berated him. And this, people think about, hypnosis, go to a happy place and it's all wonderful. And this was like, he knows better. He's sabotaging himself. He's not taking advice. He's not listening to his intuition. He knows exactly what he needs to do. And all these insights came out within the space of about 10 minutes. And this was from the higher self. So talking to the client in the third person, talking to him as a he. And when he emerged, he's like, oh my God, it was like everything which was being said, he took in. He wasn't resistant to it at all. It's like, this is so true. And he was away for 6 weeks and he came back. He'd lost 13 kilograms. Okay. I didn't know about any of this until afterwards, but he'd been self-medicating, taking all these prescription drugs to a point that it was really unhealthy. And he stopped all of them. He had lost all this weight. He'd been exercising every day. And within the space of 3 weeks, he'd found love. He'd met this lady and was so excited about that. His business was completely on track. He was full of energy, full of life. And it just came from that one session. And that was about the third session, but we knew there was something really, really deep there. And this is somebody who, as I said, would never been open to me saying, we're going to connect you with your higher self or anything like that. It just went completely naturally. And everybody's got this within them. They all know the answers, but it's kind of locked away, usually through fear. A lot of people don't want to be confronted with something because it means that they've then got to make changes. But this transformation was absolutely beautiful.
That's like incredible. Wow.
Yeah. And it was a fascinating one as well, because this was a business person. Traditionally, I've worked with a lot of people who have had maybe relationship breakups, so their whole life has turned upside down and things like that. But it made me really appreciate there's a lot of value, because it's ultimately all the same thing. There's part of us which needs to find the answers. There's a part of us which knows all the answers, knows all of our problems, and it's just a case of finding them and creating a blueprint which works individually for us. And again, to go to a coach to take a business course or whatever, it's not tailored exactly to us. If somebody comes and they want to be a better public speaker, there's a million different ways it can be done. And we find the one way which the client's higher self knows is going to work. It's going to get the results. And I will say to this part of the client, if I emerge the client now, are we absolutely certain that this is going to have a positive effect on their life immediately? And if they say yes, that's when I know my job's been done.
Incredible, Martin.
Yeah.
Last question before we wrap up. I don't want to wrap up because I'm really enjoying our conversation, Martin.
Well, we can always keep in touch for sure.
Yeah, for sure, Martin. So how has your journey as an entrepreneur influenced your work in spiritual hypnosis, or vice versa?
I definitely say vice versa. Right.
Okay.
So spirituality, as I said, it's a buzzword for when our life hits rock bottom. Okay. And up until the moment my life hit rock bottom, I was fighting very much against things I couldn't control. And it was like the universe was throwing obstacles at me. It was like every obstacle I was jumping over, maybe walling over a little bit, until eventually I just hit a brick wall and I couldn't fight anymore. And it went against all my entrepreneurial background, all my upbringing, all the motivational quotes which were floating around my head. I just had to give up and say, this isn't working for me. I need to stop this. I need to stop fighting. Maybe this isn't the answer anymore. And it changed my entrepreneurial journey, because I used to believe that success was what other people told me success was going to be. Make your business into a 6-figure income, all this kind of stuff. And it was It definitely made me less materialistic. It definitely improved my health. That was the other thing as well. But this is purely my own idea, but I always feel that my formula to success is a combination of, I'd definitely say wealth, because, as woo-woo as spiritual people like to be, bills still need to be paid, okay? So there's got to be a level of wealth, even if it just buys us time, buys us opportunities. Health, and I'd say relationships as well, and that's relationships with a significant other, with our family, with our friends. And I think it's really straightforward to excel in 2 of those 3, but not excel in all 3. Something's got to give. And I think for me, it's like not focusing so much on wealth has allowed me to open my life up to better relationships and better health. Okay. That's not to say that I've shunned money whatsoever. I'd still like to be making more than I'm making now, but that's not what's waking me up in the morning. I wake up grateful for everything which I'm doing. And I don't think I would have found that path if it had all gone wrong for me.
Amazing, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you. For all our listeners, I will link Martin's all social media handles in the show notes so you can follow him and check his website out as well. And make sure you follow the show and leave us a review as well, because that will help me bring more interesting guests like Martin on the show. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure you comment below what's your key takeaway from this episode. Thank you, Martin. Once again, thank you to all our listeners as well.
Oh, thanks a lot, T.